The boat rocked gently, but my heart thundered like a storm was trapped inside my chest. I was 18, staring at the lake's glassy surface, and Cole, my brother's best friend, was sitting too close, his knee brushing mine. I told myself it was nothing, but the air between us crackled with a secret neither of us dared to name. It was the summer of 2015 in Willow Creek, a sleepy town in upstate New York where everyone knew your business before you did. I was the quiet kid, Ethan Harper, always trailing behind my older brother, Jake, and his golden boyfriend, Cole Matthews. Cole was everything I wasn't. Broad-shouldered, confident, the kind of guy who could charm a room without trying. His laugh was a melody that lingered, and his hazel eyes seemed to see right through me. Growing up, I idolized him. But that summer, something shifted. The way he looked at me wasn't the same anymore. It was heavier, loaded with questions I was too scared to answer. Jake had dragged me along to hang out with them since I was a kid. But this time, he wasn't here. He'd bailed on the fishing trip last minute, leaving me alone with Cole on his dad's old boat. "Just us, Ethan," Cole had said with a grin, tossing me a fishing rod. I'd nodded, pretending I wasn't freaking out inside. The truth? I'd been nursing a crush on him for years. One I'd buried so deep I could barely admit it to myself. Being gay in Willow Creek wasn't just hard. It was dangerous. People talked. People judged. And I'd seen what happened to kids who didn't fit the mold. The lake was quiet that evening. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like the world's holding its breath. Cole cast his line, his movements smooth and practiced, while I fumbled with my rod, my hands sweaty. "You're hopeless," he teased, his voice warm. He leaned over to fix my grip, his fingers brushing mine, and I froze. His touch lingered a second too long, and when I looked up, his eyes were on me. Not the lake, not the rod, but me. My pulse raced. This wasn't just fishing. This was something else entirely. "Ever think about getting out of this town?" he asked suddenly, his voice low, like he was testing the waters. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. "All the time," I admitted. "But where would I go? I'm not like you, Cole. You've got plans, college, a future. I'm just here." He tilted his head, studying me. "You're more than you think, Ethan. You just don't see it yet." His words hit me like a punch, soft but heavy. I wanted to ask what he meant, but the weight of his gaze stopped me. Instead, I looked away, focusing on the ripples spreading across the lake. We sat in silence for a while, the tension building like a storm cloud. Then he spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "You ever feel like you're hiding something? Something big?" My heart stopped. I knew what he was asking, but I couldn't say it. Not out loud. Not in Willow Creek, where being different could cost you everything. I nodded, just barely, my eyes fixed on the water. Cole shifted closer, his knee pressing against mine now, deliberate. "Me too," he said. The world tilted. I turned to him, my breath catching. His face was inches from mine, his eyes searching, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. "Cole, what are we doing?" I whispered, my voice shaking. He didn't answer with words. Instead, he reached out, his hand cupping my cheek, and before I could process it, he leaned in and kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative, like he was giving me a chance to pull away. But I couldn't. I kissed him back, my hands trembling as they found his shoulders. The boat swayed beneath us, but the world felt steady for the first time in years. Everything I'd been afraid of, my feelings, my truth, the town's judgment, melted away in that moment. It was just us, two boys on a boat, stealing a piece of freedom in a world that didn't want us to have it. But then we heard it. A motorboat in the distance, its rumble slicing through the quiet. We pulled apart, panic flooding my chest. Cole's eyes widened, and he scanned the horizon. "It's probably nothing," he said, but his voice was tight. I wanted to believe him, but fear clawed at me. If anyone saw us, if word got back to town, I didn't want to think about it. We sat there, frozen, as the motorboat's sound faded, but the spell was broken. The weight of reality crashed back in. "We can't tell anyone," I said, my voice barely audible. Cole nodded, his jaw tight. "I know." But his hand found mine under the boat's edge, hidden from the world, and squeezed. It was a promise, fragile but real. We didn't catch any fish that day, but we caught something else. Something dangerous, something beautiful, something that would change everything. As we rowed back to shore, the sunset painting the sky in hues of fire, I felt alive in a way I never had before. But I also felt the shadow of Willow Creek looming over us. This wasn't just a kiss. It was the start of something bigger, something that could break us or set us free. I didn't know which yet, but one thing was certain. I'd never forget that day on the boat. It haunted me not because it was wrong, but because it was the first time I felt right. The weeks after that fishing trip were a blur of stolen glances and secret thrills. Cole and I didn't talk about the kiss, but it lived in every moment we were together. Every brush of his hand when he passed me a soda, every smile he flashed when Jake wasn't looking. We were playing with fire, and I couldn't stop myself from leaning into the flames. Willow Creek wasn't the kind of place where secrets stayed buried. The town was small, its people nosy, and its church sermons loud about sin. My parents were good people, but they were products of this place, traditional, set in their ways. Dad ran the local hardware store and Mom taught Sunday school. They loved me, but I wasn't sure they'd love the real me. Jake, my brother, was different. He was protective but oblivious. He didn't notice the way Cole and I orbited each other, drawn together like magnets fighting to connect. Cole started finding excuses to hang out without Jake. He'd show up at our house with some half-baked reason. A broken fishing reel, a question about school, and we'd end up in my room, talking in hushed tones. "You ever been to New York City?" he asked one afternoon, sprawled on my bed, his hands behind his head. His shirt rolled up, revealing a sliver of tan skin, and I had to look away. "Once," I said, fidgeting with a pencil. "Field trip in 8th grade." "Why?" He grinned, that lopsided smile that made my stomach flip. "I'm going there for college in the fall. You should come visit. Get out of this place." His words were casual, but his eyes weren't. They were daring me to dream of a life beyond Willow Creek. A life where we could be something. But dreams were dangerous. One evening we were at the lake again, just the two of us. The air was thick with summer heat, and we ditched our shirts, splashing water at each other like kids. For a moment it felt like we were free. Then Cole grabbed my wrist, pulling me close, and kissed me again. This time it wasn't soft or tentative. It was hungry, desperate, like he was trying to memorize me. I melted into him, my hands on his chest, feeling his heartbeat under my palms. But then headlights flashed through the trees, and we sprang apart, my heart pounding so hard I thought it had burst. It was just a passing car, but it was a wake-up call. "We gotta be careful," I whispered, my voice shaking. Cole nodded, but his eyes were dark with frustration. "I hate this," he said. "Hiding, pretending. I want to be with you, Ethan. For real." His words hit me like a tidal wave. Be with me. It was everything I wanted, but it terrified me. "What about Jake?" I asked. "What about your parents? The town?" Cole's jaw clenched. "I don't care about them. I care about you." But I cared. I cared too much. The thought of my family turning their backs on me, of the town whispering, of losing everything. It was suffocating. Things got harder when Jake started noticing something was off. "You and Cole are weird lately," he said one night at dinner, his fork paused midair. "What's going on?" I froze, my mouth full of mashed potatoes. "Nothing," I mumbled, but my face burned. Jake squinted at me, suspicious, but let it go. Cole, though, was bolder. He'd text me late at night, saying things like, "I can't stop thinking about you." And I'd lie awake, staring at my ceiling, torn between joy and dread. One day we pushed our luck too far. We were at Cole's house, his parents out of town, and we'd snuck into his basement to watch a movie. Halfway through, He pulled me onto his lap, and we were kissing, lost in each other, when the door slammed open. It was Jake. His face went from confusion to shock to something harder, betrayal. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. Cole stood, putting himself between me and Jake, but I was shaking, my world crumbling. "Jake, listen," I started, but he cut me off. "You're my brother, Ethan. And you—" He turned to Cole, his fists clenched. "You were supposed to be my friend." Jake stormed out, and I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Cole tried to comfort me, but I pushed him away. "This was a mistake," I said, my voice breaking. "We can't do this." His face fell, but he didn't argue. That night, I lay in bed, replaying Jake's expression, the disgust in his eyes. I'd always been the good kid, the one who didn't make waves. Now I was the one tearing our family apart. The kiss on the boat had felt like freedom, but this felt like a cage. The fallout with Jake was like a bomb going off in our house. He barely spoke to me for days, his silence louder than any argument. I'd catch him staring, his eyes full of questions he didn't ask, and I hated myself for putting that look there. Cole tried to call, but I ignored him, too scared to face what we'd done. I told myself it was better this way, cutting him off, burying my feelings, pretending I could go back to being the Ethan everyone expected. But Willow Creek had other plans. Rumors spread like wildfire. Someone had seen us at the lake. Not the kiss, but close enough to start whispering. By the time the gossip reached the church, it was twisted into something ugly. Ethan Harper's got a thing for his brother's friend. I overheard at the gas station, the words dripping with scorn. My stomach churned. I wanted to disappear, to sink into the ground and never come up. But there was no escaping it. Mom started asking questions, her voice gentle but probing. "Is something going on, Ethan? You've been so quiet." I lied, said I was fine, but the weight of her concern crushed me. Cole wouldn't let me go so easily. One night, he showed up at my window, tapping softly until I let him in. "We need to talk," he said, his voice urgent. I wanted to send him away, but the sight of him, his messy hair, his pleading eyes, undid me. "Jake hates me," I said, my voice cracking. "And it's my fault." Cole shook his head. "It's not your fault. It's this town. It's the way they make us feel like we're wrong for who we are." He stepped closer, his hand reaching for mine, but I pulled back. "I can't, Cole. If this gets out, it'll ruin everything." He looked like I'd slapped him. "So what? We just pretend it never happened? Pretend we don't feel this?" His voice was raw, and it broke something in me. I wanted to tell him I loved him, that I'd give anything to be with him, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I said, "You're leaving for college soon. You'll forget me." His eyes flashed with anger. "You think this is just some fling? Ethan, I've been in love with you since we were kids." The confession hit me like a freight train. I stared at him, my heart pounding, but before I could respond, headlights swept across my window. Dad was home. Cole slipped out before Dad reached my room, but the close call shook me. I couldn't keep doing this, sneaking around, lying, living in fear. But letting Cole go felt like cutting out a piece of myself. The next day, I went to the lake alone, hoping the water would clear my head. Instead, I found Jake there, skipping rocks. He didn't look at me, but he spoke. "I don't get it, Ethan. Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was quiet, hurt. I swallowed hard. "I was scared. I didn't want you to hate me." He finally met my eyes, and I saw something softer there. "I don't hate you. I just need time." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. But the town wasn't as kind. The rumors grew, and soon, I was getting sidelong glances at school, whispers following me down the halls. One day, a group of guys cornered me after class. Their words sharp and cruel. "Freak." One of them spat. I kept my head down, but inside, I was breaking. When I told Cole, he was furious. "We need to leave," he said. "Come with me to New York. We can start over." It was a dream I wanted so badly, but I was tethered to Willow Creek. My family, my fear, my life. I can't, I said, and the hurt in his eyes was worse than any punch. That night, I overheard my parents talking. If it's true, we'll get him help, Dad said, his voice heavy. He's just confused. Mom was crying. I felt sick. They thought I was broken, something to be fixed. I wanted to scream that I wasn't wrong, that loving Cole was the most right thing I'd ever felt. But I didn't. I stayed silent like always. The boat, the kiss, Cole's confession, they were haunting me, not because they were wrong, but because I was too afraid to fight for them. Summer bled into fall, and Cole's departure for college loomed like a guillotine. Every day felt like a countdown to losing him. We still met in secret, stolen moments in the woods, late-night texts, but the weight of Willow Creek pressed harder. The rumors had solidified into accusations, and I couldn't walk through town without feeling eyes on me. I started skipping school, hiding in my room, but even there, I wasn't safe from myself. My thoughts were a war zone, love for Cole battling fear of what it meant. One night, Cole convinced me to meet him at the lake again. "One last time before I go," he said, his voice soft over the phone. Couldn't say no. When I got there, he was waiting in the boat, a blanket spread out, a lantern casting a warm glow. "No fishing tonight," he said with a shy smile. "Just us." We sat close, the air cool but his presence warm. He took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. "I'm not giving up on you, Ethan," he said. "Even if I'm in New York, I'm still here. For you." I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. "What if you meet someone else?" I asked, my voice small. He cupped my face, his eyes fierce. "There's no one else. There's never been anyone else." We kissed under the stars, and for a moment, I let myself believe we could have this, a life where we didn't have to hide. But reality was cruel. The next day, I found a note slipped under my door, and signed but vicious, "Fags don't belong here." My blood ran cold. I didn't tell Cole, but he saw the fear in my eyes when we met later. "What happened?" he demanded. I showed him the note, and his face darkened. "We're leaving," he said. "Both of us. Now." I shook my head. "I can't just run away. My family—" He cut me off. "They'll come around. But you can't stay here and let this place destroy you." He was right, but I was paralyzed. That night, things got worse. Jake came into my room, his face pale. "Dad heard something at the store," he said. "People are talking about you and Cole. He's pissed." My heart sank. I braced for a lecture, but Jake surprised me. "I don't understand it, Ethan, but you're my brother. I don't want you to get hurt." His words were a lifeline, but they weren't enough to stop the storm. Dad confronted me the next morning, his voice low and hard. "Is it true? You and that Matthews boy?" Couldn't lie anymore. "Yes," I said, my voice barely a whisper. His face crumpled, not with anger, but with disappointment. "We raised you better than this," he said, and walked out. I felt like I'd lost everything. I called Cole, sobbing, and he was at my house in minutes. "We're done hiding," he said, his voice shaking with determination. "We tell them the truth or we leave. Your choice." I wanted to be brave like him, but I wasn't. I told him to go, that I needed time. He left, but not before kissing me fiercely, like he was trying to pour his courage into me. "I'll wait for you," he said, "as long as it takes." The next day, I found out the note wasn't just a prank. A group of guys from school jumped me behind the diner, their fists and slurs raining down. I didn't fight back. I just took it, curling into myself until they left. When I got home, bruised and bleeding, Mom gasped, but Dad just stared. "This is what happens," he said, his voice hollow. "You brought this on yourself." I wanted to scream that I didn't choose this, that I just loved someone, but I couldn't. I ran to my room, locked the door, and cried until I had nothing left. That night, I made a decision. I couldn't stay in Willow Creek, but I couldn't leave with Cole either, not yet. I needed to find myself, to figure out who I was without the town's judgment or Cole's courage carrying me. I packed a bag, left a note for Jake, and slipped out before dawn. The boat, the kiss, Cole's love. They were still with me, haunting me, but they were also my strength. I wasn't running away. I was running toward something, toward a life where I could be me. I ended up in Albany, a city big enough to disappear in, but close enough to feel like I hadn't abandoned everything. I found a job at a coffee shop, a tiny studio apartment, and a therapist who didn't flinch when I told her I was gay. For the first time, I said the word out loud, and it didn't break me. It made me stronger. But Cole was never far from my thoughts. His texts came less often as the months passed, not because he didn't care, but because I'd asked for space. Still, every night, I'd reread his last message. I'm still waiting. Willow Creek didn't let me go so easily. Jake called sometimes, his voice cautious but kind. Mom and Dad are trying, he said once. They miss you. I wanted to believe him, but the memory of Dad's words, you brought this on yourself, still stung. I didn't go back, not yet. I wasn't ready to face the town that had tried to erase me. But I was learning to live with myself, to accept the boy who'd kissed Cole on that boat and hadn't regretted it. Not for a second. A year later, I got an email from Cole. He was graduating early, moving to San Francisco for a job. Come with me, he wrote. Let's start over together. My heart raced, but this time it wasn't fear. It was hope. I'd spent a year building a life, finding my voice, and I was ready to fight for what I wanted. I called him, and his voice was like coming home. I'm in, I said, and I could hear his smile through the phone. We met in New York City, a halfway point, before heading west. When I saw him at the train station, his hair longer, his smile brighter, I ran to him. We kissed, right there in the middle of Grand Central, and no one cared. It was the first time I felt free, truly free. We talked for hours that night, about the boat, the lake, the pain, and the love that had carried us through. I never stopped loving you, he said, and I believed him. San Francisco was everything Willow Creek wasn't. Vibrant, open, alive. We got an apartment together, small but ours. I enrolled in community college, studying art, something I'd always loved but never pursued. Cole worked as a graphic designer, and at night we'd walk the city holding hands without fear. It wasn't perfect. There were fights, doubts, moments when the past crept in, but it was real. We were real. I went back to Willow Creek once, 2 years later, for Jake's wedding. Mom hugged me so tightly I couldn't breathe, and Dad shook my hand, his eyes wet. We were wrong, he said, and it was enough. The town hadn't changed much, but I had. The lake was still there, still beautiful, but it didn't haunt me anymore. It was just a place where two boys fell in love, where I found the courage to be myself. Now, as I write this, I'm sitting on our balcony in San Francisco, Cole asleep inside, his arms slung over my pillow like it belongs there. The fishing trip, the boat, the kiss. They're still with me, not as ghosts, but as reminders of what we fought for. We didn't just survive Willow Creek. We built something better. And every time I look at Cole, I know it was worth it. Love isn't just a moment. It's a choice, a fight, a life. And I'd choose him every time.